Dover, this derelict church still gets my full praise.
What a fantastic space.
Let's head back in time now to Dover in Kent, a place well known for its ferries, castles and the stunning white cliffs. It was back in 2016 when I visited this famous part of the UK to see something quite grand.
I'm on the white cliffs of Dover.
Built in 1901 for the princely sum of £5,500 was this. A Methodist chapel, now closed down and up for auction with a guide price of £140,000 to £150,000. Let's have a look. OK, well, through those marvellous doors into this little sort of entrance area, nothing too spectacular yet. And then through into the main body of the Wow. That is exactly what you'd hope to find, isn't it? Look at this. What a fantastic space. Obviously, it's all been cleared out at some point, so you've basically just got this shell, and judging by some of the bits and pieces of paint coming off the walls, they're not particularly in fantastic condition. But structurally, I'm looking for any huge cracks that might be a major concern. I don't know at first glance. Looks OK. And just... wow. Wow, wow, wow!
Former nave was such a grand space, but the rest of the rooms weren't so much, which was a sin, however practical.
Now, clearly, some of the character of the building has been taken out of the pews, have gone a lot of the woodwork and the window frames and original windows. However, there is still a lot of the building which has been left, which does give it that feeling that this just isn't a square box. You know, these wonderful archways, the arched windows, just the shape of the roof. And I think when you were planning any renovation, you'd really want to make the most of what's been left. Maybe that mezzanine floor there, that's certainly that huge, great master window. All the windows, keep them like this. It's not going to be cheap. You're going to have bespoke frames made, but that will all be recouped in the value of whatever you put here. Well, the first idea you have is obviously, wouldn't it be great to just somehow keep it like it is? I think that, in this case, would probably limit your options. Who knows, though? Maybe some kind of a nursery or a community centre or something like that. Is that going to have much of a commercial market? I'm not sure. The next one would be to knock it down, perhaps, and just use the space. I think that would be a real shame. Finally, how about trying to convert this into some kind of residential development, maybe flats? Clearly, it has no planning permission at the moment. It has no change of use in place for residential. So there's lots of hurdles you're going to have to jump. It really is a problem and a joy at the same time.
It's not unusual for churches and chapels to be sold off and to be converted for other uses. But planning could still be a tricky process, as many are listed or also have covenants on them restricting their future uses. Another issue was there was no outside parking, and it sat on a very busy main road, so the planners would maybe look unfavourably on that. So while there may be a lot of pitfalls ahead with this property, there was no doubt there was plenty of potential, and all for a guide price of £140,000 to £150,000. So who was tempted at the auction to take this on?
Substantial premises on a corner site there, potential for lots of things, I think, subject to all the planning consents. Start me at 120 then. 120, I'm on the way, straight away, at £120,000. Now 125, 125. I've got 125 at the back. Can I take 130? 130. At 132, I've got, if we're all done at £132,000, 133 is that? 133. 134 I've got. 135 I've got. 136 is against you, both at the back. Otherwise, add £135,000 in the front row if you're sure you're all done. Smoke capital. Sold at £135,000.
Getting it for £135,000, £5,000 below the guide price, was Steve and his wife Hazzy. They were taking the job on with Hazzy's brother Sunil and his wife Geeta, who were all teaming up together on this one. They'd been on the show before, taking on a number of projects over the years, and have done a few developments in the past, though nothing on this scale. While Steve and Sunil were busy measuring up, I spoke to Hazzy and Geeta about their plans.
Geeta, Hazzy, lovely to meet you both.
Hello,
In fact, we've met before, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
But an interesting one you've chosen here, then.
We have, yes. It's not our usual part of our portfolio.
Yeah. So why this place, then?
We thought, well, why not? Why not? Because it was a great price. It's a massive building, has a lot of potential in a very good area.
The space is just amazing, and I can just visualise, you know, the outcome.
So tell me what your plans are.
Well, we decided Steve's quite good at developments.
He's
my
your
husband.
He's your husband, yeah.
Yeah, and we're thinking about doing either 6 apartments, or there is still potential for renting out for schools or nurseries, things like that.
Because at the moment, I mean, it is a bit of a blank canvas. It hasn't got planning permission for anything, has it?
No.
It's just, it is what it is. So there's quite a few hurdles to go through.
Yeah, it's not listed either.
No.
So
Yes, that goes in our favour, doesn't it? Yeah.
But, you know, the one thing we don't want to do is start knocking it down or anything, trying to keep the character of it. And, you know, there are a lot of churches around that have had all these apartments done, and they're absolutely stunning. So, you know, and it's nice to keep in character from the outside as well.
It was good to hear that the church building would be staying and would have a future as a residential property. Geeta and Hazzy had already got architects on board and were aiming to submit plans to install 2 mezzanine floors that would accommodate the 6 apartments, with additional room for 2 studio flats. It would have been a big enough project for an experienced team of builders, but the team here seemed up for the challenge.
Well, we just decided to think
different.
outside the box, because we've always done houses, property, we have to do developments as well. And we thought, oh, you know, we'll just try something different, and it's actually quite exciting.
And also, because it does have a lot of character, it'd be great to be able to create a vision of flats that do have the character, but also have that modern feel and that modern living space as well.
Once they hopefully got planning permission, Geeta and Hazzy reckoned the build cost for the apartments would be from £250,000 to £300,000.
And what kind of timescale are you anticipating?
Well, probably about a year and a half,
planning
I think.
can take some
yeah,
time.
it just depends how long planning takes.
Planning can take.
And then after that, we're giving ourselves a year and a half.
That was back in March 2016, but when we returned 18 months later, it seemed sadly that there was no mezzanine or flats installed. While things were quiet at the church, Geeta and Sunil informed us that there had been plenty of progress behind the scenes.
Since we last met, we've been busy basically working on a planning application for flats in this building. So we've managed to get planning for 4 one-bedroom apartments and 5 two-bedroom apartments over 3 floors.
We were very fortunate that we only needed to make 1 planning application. Dover Planning Committee and Dover Council really supported us in getting the number of units we desired.
Geeta and Sunil had finally got the planning consent they needed to turn the church into some contemporary modern apartments. But that support from Dover Council wasn't shared by everyone else.
The biggest challenge for us in terms of getting this planning was handling objections from people who, you know, around the local area. I mean, people don't like change necessarily, especially when it's on their doorstep. So what we wanted to do was try and reassure them that actually, look, you know, we're doing this to help build the community and be part of the community rather than sort of take anything away from them.
Geeta and Sunil still reckoned 18 months would be enough to finish the build. But with the church now accommodating more flats, their costs had been affected.
Our original budget was around 250 to 300,000, but that's now doubled to about 540,000 roughly is what we estimated.
Finally, it was all systems go for the project to get started. But first, Geeta and Sunil needed builders to do the job.
So we are looking for local people to, to work on producing these 9 units.
So our main aim at the moment is to get a steel frame that will take the rest of the apartments in the building. So the original structure will remain, but we will need to build up from the basement to take the weight of each level.
Keeping the character of the building was really important to us. The main things for us was keeping the shape of the windows, the front door, and also the structure of the building. It is a church and we want it to look like a church, but when people walk inside, obviously, it looks completely different and modern.
Let's see what happens indeed, as I, for one, can't wait to see this old church have a new sense of purpose. Find out how they get on later in the show. OK, time now to dust down the Hammer archives and to head back to a Methodist church in Dover we first saw in March 2016. Back then I was hoping that I might find something special behind the ornate doors, and it didn't disappoint.
Wow. That is exactly what you'd hope to find, isn't it? Look at this. What a fantastic space.
But impressive and glorious as it was, it really wasn't making the most of the space. And as a church, well, just a big hall really. Quite frankly, it wouldn't make you any money either. So a full conversion was called for, and the people who decided it was their mission to provide this service were Hazzy and husband Steve, and Sunil and his wife Geeta, who were part of a family property business that bought the church for £135,000 at auction. Their initial plan was to convert it into 6 apartments, but when we first returned 2.5 years later, nothing had changed with the building itself. But there had been a change of plan, as Geeta and Sunil explained.
We've managed to get planning for 4 one-bedroom apartments and 5 two-bedroom apartments.
So 6 had become 9, and the budget was set around £540,000. With fingers crossed, they hoped they would complete the project in a further 18 months. But now, 5 years since I was first wowed by the space, it's time to see if the building is now praiseworthy. Has changed. So what is happening now?
We've actually now created the apartments. We have 9 in total, 5 2-beds and 4 1-bed.
The 9 apartments are arranged over 3 floors with 3 separate entrances. And although not fully complete, let's get a closer look at one of those 2-bed apartments.
Okay, so this is one of the top floor flats. We've got 2 here. These ones are slightly bigger than the other floors, the flats in the lower floors. And this one has the highest ceiling as well. It's not all finished, and we've still got the tiles to put in. There's still other bits that need to go in here. But I was really happy that we've kept the beams, and this is one of my requirements or requests early on, that, we try to keep as much of the original features as possible. So I'm thrilled that we were able to keep these in the upstairs. In fact, every single apartment we've managed to keep them.
And I'm thrilled too. It adds so much character to each of the apartments. Yes, throughout the 9 apartments you have beautiful reminders of the old church. But in order to get the building to this stage, Geeta and Sunil had to dig deep.
First thing that happened was that we had to dig the foundations out because the foundations that were in the church had been here for 100 years and it wouldn't take the weight of the new structure in the building. And then it was waiting for the steel company to come and put their steel frame in. And when they'd done that part, then it was getting the next floors in. So there's 3 floors, ground floor, middle floor and top floor. So, yeah, it's each step of the way.
They also had delays getting the utilities sorted, and in particular, the electrics. With other smaller projects on the go, time had slipped away, but they are confident they will complete it in the next couple of months. Sunil has been the main project manager here, looking after the logistics and getting the apartments constructed, while Geeta concentrates more on the ergonomics.
So my role was really to see what it would be like to live inside the apartment. So to look at it from a design perspective, where would we have the bed, where would we have the chest of drawers, where would I want the wardrobe? You know, as women, there is never going to be enough wardrobe space. So, you know, space was going to be a real issue in terms of like, okay, where does everything go?
With every apartment slightly different, this presented Geeta with a unique challenge. Although Sunil and Geeta have a lot of house refurbishments under their belt, this is the biggest and most complex building venture the family property business have taken on. And with a big project comes a big expenditure.
We're up to 650 to 700 as that's the build cost. So we're way above where we wanted to be.
Yes, that £700,000 doesn't include the £135,000 they bought the church for at auction, and they spent £25,000 obtaining the planning. So that's a sizable £860,000 they have tied up with their 9 apartments. But what does the estate agent who saw it last time make of the work so far?
What a super development. When you look at the plans, I didn't imagine it would be as good as this. It really is enhancing all of the features of the old church. The features that stand out for me is the usage of the old arches. It gives it a little bit of individuality.
So now the number crunching for an £860,000 investment.
The values of the properties would range from the 1 bedrooms, £150,000 to £160,000, and the 2 bedrooms from £165,000 to £195,000 for the penthouse.
With 4 one-beds and 5 two-beds, that little lot adds up to between £1.4 and £1.6 million, which could result in a healthy pre-tax profit of £540,000 to £740,000. But this development is all about rental.
The 1-bedroom apartments should range from £650 per calendar month to £675 per calendar month. The 2 bedrooms would range from £750 per calendar month to £850 per calendar month.
And we think they're really good rents, and I think maybe the time that we've not been able to move on has helped us in getting that valuation. So in the end, I think it'll all come out really good.
Yes, it seems that way because those rental figures would see an annual yield of around 9%. So this seems like a worthwhile project in all senses of the word.
Yeah, I feel really good about it because, you know, what we saw 5 years ago was just an empty shell. And now we're going to have lovely living space for people who want to live in a church. So, yes.